the health of your mind, your subconscious mind in particular,
Yeah.
is critical for, even if what we think we're looking for is physical well-being, I don't really think you can have physical well-being without that mental well-being. I'm not sure it's possible.
If you don't take care of what's going on in the subconscious of people's minds, at best, the term I use is you're going to be the greatest version of your limited self. Now, if you really get that statement, it's very profound, right? So you're stuck within the parameters of your blind spots, right? These beliefs of inadequacy, insecurity, and scarcity, which to me are universal, they're primal, they're very deep. Then we develop survival mechanisms, adaptations, compensations. And then on top of that, our physiology is going to, just by natural cascade, reflect whatever's going on internally, which is, as you know, as a doctor, usually a mild state of fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system, cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, that whole storm of hormones that really is doing us a disservice. It's affecting people's sleep and weight gain. All of the things that people are dealing symptomatically on the surface, to me, are a byproduct of the fact that human beings currently are designed to survive. Everything is a potential perceived threat, whether it's being what your boss is going to say, or your spouse is going to say, or your parents are going to say, or am I going to be able to pay rent, or am I going to be okay in the future? Am I going to realize my dreams? Am I ever going to quit smoking? Am I ever going to lose weight? All of these sort of unanswerable questions inspire this internal sort of fight and battle that people have, that to me is the dis-ease, the absence of ease, that then manifests over time into some physical symptoms. So that's why I get super passionate about this, because you can do all the work externally and it's not a knock on your industry. And thank God you listen, and that's why you're making the difference you are. Because if you don't address what's going on mentally and emotionally for somebody, at best, you're just making the window dressing look good while the back of the shop is just on fire. I tell people, you can't create the life of someone you don't yet believe yourself to be.
Yeah.
Right. So again, this is one of my quotes that I use in my book, right? So it's like recognizing that if you're wanting to create a certain life externally, then if you don't emulate that internally in the way that you view yourself, in the way that you speak about yourself, the way that you behave, then you're, to use the English expression, you're pissing into the wind, right? It's not going to work because you're going against the grain of how you're fundamentally conditioned. I'll use a sports analogy because I think, I work with a lot of professional athletes and it's a beautiful metaphor for life. So I was hired by a very successful basketball player here. And he was struggling from the free throw. Like when one of the players gets fouled, you go to the free throw, it's a relatively easy shot. The league average is 75%. So when a guy is fouled, he goes to the free throw line, usually makes the 1-pointer, 7, 8 times out of 10. This guy's average was 35%. So, it wasn't even close to average. It was half the average. And you can imagine he was, losing sleep. It was affecting his personal relationships at home because of the stress. Crowds were starting to boo. And here's somebody who's getting paid millions of dollars. There's literally millions of fans. They're fanatical here in the States about their sports. And it was costing him a lot. He was really, really struggling. So the point about addiction and why I'm using this sports metaphor as a comparison is he had become addicted to the fact that he had a problem. So when I met him, I said, you're probably speaking to everyone you can, from players, coaches, even sports psychologists. He's like, I'm doing everything I can to fix the problem. I said, and therein lies one of your biggest obstacles, because you keep reinforcing the belief that you've got a problem. Do you remember the movie Men in Black with Will Smith, and they waved the black wand after they'd seen the aliens to wipe their memory? So I said to the guy, I said, if you had no memory, where's your problem? Just to start to give him an indicator that what he's fighting is his history. So now he goes up to the free throw line. He isn't even focused on what he's trying to accomplish, which is make the basket. He is trying to avoid his history of hurt, trauma. I'm not a big fan of the word trauma, but past failings or disappointments where we got upset. And now he's standing there literally trying to fix his history. But that's only impossible. So, I played with a guy, as you can probably imagine. I'm coming from a lot of love and compassion. He's doing the best he can. It's affecting him dramatically. But I said, once he got to see it, I used a metaphor. You're like driving a car, but the way you're driving the car is you're looking in the rearview mirror. So all you're seeing is what's behind you. And then you wonder why you keep running into shit.
Yeah.
Right? So anyway, then I said to him, what if I told you that for the rest of the season, you shot league average. Let's just be, we'll be conservative. You shot 75% instead of 35, 37. His shoulders dropped. He had the biggest smile on his face. This guy's huge. He's like, 7 foot something. And he's like, that would feel amazing. I said, what I just presented to you is a future that is as real as the one you're concerned about. The difference is, I recognize that as a possibility, whereas you're so busy trying to avoid your history that you're actually standing in the line in a state of anxiety, which is self-perpetuating, it's self-fulfilling. Both the futures, you're worried about one, mine is phenomenal, or at least better. They're both made up. Why? Because we're still sitting in your house. We haven't gone anywhere. But mine elicits joy, freedom, relaxation. If you're an athlete coming from freedom, joy, and relaxation, I don't care what sport you're doing, you're going to do it better than if you're coming from tension, anxiety, and worry. That night, he had a game. He shot 6 out of 8, so that was 75%. And for the rest of the week, he shot 68%.
Way better than previous.
Almost double if you're into that kind of stuff. Yeah. Right? So what happened is, going back to the addiction, is most people are completely addicted to their history and then spending the rest of their life trying to compensate for it. Versus, what are you committed to? What's the future you're stepping into out of pure creation versus reaction? And it's a distinction I make. Most people are reactive versus creative. Let's wake up and find so much more joy and freedom for ourselves and come from a place where we're creating an extraordinary future that we're working towards versus trying to fix a history behind us, which we can't do anything about anyway.
Yeah.
2 totally different worlds to live in.
I love to leave the listeners with some hopefully simple ideas and tips that they can think about applying into their own lives immediately to start transforming the way that they feel.
The first thing that comes to mind intuitively, I'm just going to trust, is slow down. Just for everybody to slow down. The world is moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour, metaphorically, and people are just rushing around. And invariably, it's for this idealized future that everyone's chasing. So to the point earlier, we're under the impression that this one-day phenomenon is when I'm going to have the perfect body, the right relationship, enough money, yada, yada, yada. And what we're doing is we're sort of perpetually pushing away our feeling better. Because I'm saying, well, that's where it's all going to work out. But right now, it's not so good. So I would say embrace life for what it is, embrace yourself for who you are, and embrace others for who they are. I use the expression, everybody's a masterpiece and yet a work in progress.
Press subscribe to get more inspiration and ideas on how to feel better so you can get more out of life. And if you have a moment, why not check out this conversation that I've picked out as a perfect follow-up. Remember, lifestyle change is always worth it, because when you feel better, you live more.